Okay, good. Well, first of all, good evening, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My second time in this forum presenting something. Well, thank you, Ginat, for the invitation. My name is Sandra. I'm originally from Peru, but I lived in Switzerland many years, and I'm in Israel since 2 years, working in the field of mindfulness. So teaching what is called the MBSR, the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program, and mindfulness counseling, and also mindful yoga. So my presentation today is going to be around mindful eating, which is something that is very interesting to look at, and also what I call is really, we're going to go into explore really tonight what is to really eat intentionally, explore a little bit how it would be and the benefits of really eating mindful and being in the moment by eating. And I'm gonna start, I'm gonna first explain what mindfulness is for those who don't know. And then we're gonna go into a practice. So I asked in the presentation that Ginat gave for me is to bring something to eat. I don't know if you have something. It could be a little piece of something, or yeah, it could be also something to drink as well. Why not? But if you have something, or if you want to grab something, this would be the time to do it. So so I invite you to do so. And before we do the practice, I would like to explain a little bit what mindfulness is. Actually, mindfulness is something that you see in many spiritual beliefs, and in many spiritual, in religions as well. It's really to be in the moment and do things really in the moment, with all the attention to what you are doing. And you see that in the Buddhist tradition, even in Judaism, in the Christian tradition. It's something that is very old. It has more than 3,000 years. But nowadays it came into the west part of the planet, and it got really into research from science, what really the effect is to be in the moment and to practice mindfulness. And there's this person who really is one of the pioneers who explore what does really mindfulness, or the practice of meditation, of being in the moment, in our brain and in our health, which is Jon Kabat-Zinn. And he started exploring the effects of this practice in our brain and in our health. So he's a doctor. He started working with patients with chronic pain and with depression, and used this and started to research in the brain the effects. So the definition that I took is from him, and it says mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment and not judgmentally. And I think that's very important, because sometimes we are really mindful. It's something that is in us when we do things all the time. Sometimes we are mindful. It's something that is a resource in every human being. But sometimes we don't do it on purpose. And sometimes we aren't really, when we are paying attention to something, we are judging. It is good, it is bad, I don't want it, I want it more. So this is really the practice, to be in the moment without judging if it's good, bad, and really paying attention. And this practice has an intention, really, when you are mindful in this talking it in this kind of way, we are talking about really intentionally being in the moment. It's something that you have to experience. The more the research has shown you use mindfulness, the more really our part of the nervous system who is in charge of calming us, of the reflection in our body, is really grows in our brain. So when we experience mindfulness, when we are practicing that, we are really practicing or using what we call the mindful muscle. And the more you use it, the more grows. It's like when we go to the gym and we use the machines and our muscles grow. So the more we are really with intention, experiencing mindfulness, the more we are going to be able to really use it more practically. It's not judgmental, because we want, when we have the experience, sometimes the experience in life are bad, sometimes are not pleasant, sometimes are pleasant, and our tendency is to avoid what is unpleasant and to try to really embrace or keep what is pleasant. And sometimes we suffer through that because we want more from the good things and we want to avoid. So this creates really a tension in ourselves. So by not really judging the experience, sometimes it relieves our suffering when we are in those situations. And there's a lot of attitudinals that we bring into mindfulness, but I just using two that I would like to use with you during the practice, which is curiosity and kindness. So sometimes really the curiosity that I invite you to bring into this practice is a curiosity with this beginner's mind that sometimes children have. When you see a small child doing something for the first time, and even if it repeats many times, they are really into it, like it would be the first time they are doing that. When they see a flower or a bag, or they eating a candy. So this is really the attitude we want to bring into the practice. And I also mentioned kindness because this is very important in being in the present moment by using a mindfulness practice. Sometimes we have the tendency to judge ourselves when we have an experience or when doing things, and we are really harsh sometimes towards ourselves, even more than we are towards others. So kindness, we say, must start at home. It's like when you have this picture of the plane, you know, the mask goes down, you have to put it first yourself to help others. Otherwise, you can faint, and then the others also. So really bringing this kindness into ourselves, and that's going to help us to bring it to others. So we're going to go into the practice, and then we're going to talk more about the mindful eating. So the invitation, as I told you, if you want to grab your piece of food, and first of all, I would like you to take it into your hand and just imagine yourself or looking at this piece of food or whatever you have to eat or to taste, as you would see it for the first time in your life. I've bringing this attitude of, I don't know what it is, and just watch it. Just look at it, observing, maybe, you know, bringing all of your senses, your sight first into this, maybe rotating in your hand if you have something to drink, maybe, you know, shaking it and watching it, and just, you know, turning it on, being aware of the colors. You know, there's maybe one color or more, the shape, maybe turn it into the light and observe it, how it looks when you put it on the light. And just put it in your fingers and using your sense of touch. How does it feel? Maybe closing your eyes while you are, touching it, and allow yourself just to sink into this moment of really being full aware of your sense of touch. And now maybe bringing it into your nose. And just being curious about how it smells. Does it have a smell or maybe not? Maybe if you feel adventurous, you bring it to your ears. Do you hear something? Or maybe nothing. And maybe also, like closing your eyes and try to hear, observing what happens when you close your eyes. Is maybe your awareness takes you to some other sound around you. And if it's so, just bringing it back to hearing whatever you are having in your hands. And then bringing it to your nose again. Breathing in and out. Being aware of the air, and through the air, the smell that may arise or may not. And observing if there are some kind of thoughts right now, maybe thoughts that, what am I doing? This feels like nonsense, maybe. So observing what arises into your mind. And if it's possible for you, just observe if there's judgment and letting go of any judgment. And now bringing the object into your top of the lips. So sensing the object over your lips. And then bringing it into your mouth, but not biting. Just bringing it into your mouth and exploring with the tongue how it feels. I need to bring just one piece, otherwise I cannot talk. But bring it into your mouth, or maybe closing your eyes and sensing with the tongue how it feels when you move it around in your mouth. And then starting to bite very slowly. And with every bite, being aware of every taste that is coming out. Maybe observing if one bite is different than the other. Observing if there's some urgency of biting very fast and slow and swallowing, wanting to swallow, but not swallowing. Resisting this wish of swallow. And just biting a few times more. And then swallowing. Maybe you're swallowing one way in one time, or maybe you need to swallow a few times until it's in your stomach. And so sensing how it flows from your mouth all the way down to the stomach until there's nothing left into your mouth. And if you feel like closing your eyes and now observing what is felt or what is staying, the sensations that are staying in your mouth. Observing if there's any emotions maybe coming up. Maybe there's a craving of more or not. Maybe there's a sense of judging. Was it unpleasant or pleasant? And just allowing yourself to connect with whatever sensations are arising right now for you. Observing if there's any thoughts also coming and going. And then connecting with the breath coming in and out. And now allowing yourself to feel your body sitting here and coming back to the Zoom room and opening your eyes if you had them closed. So now I would like to ask you, how was your experience by eating this piece of whatever you had to eat? You know, if you think and the way you normally eat, how was it for you this time? Was it something new or something different? So if you want to, you know, unmute yourself and comment or write something on the chat.
Share. I loved it. I was really surprised. I mean, you know, a bottle of water, like how random is that? And I loved going through all the different awarenesses of it. And what surprised me is that the smell is terrible. And this is a bottle that's been sitting in a hot car. And everyone says, don't do it. And I thought, you know, because the taste of the water is still good. The smell was, I know that I was smelling the stick and not the water itself. Water, and I'm pretty sensitive to water. The smell of the bottle was terrible. So I really appreciated this exercise. Really good.
Thank you, Gina. And were there, you know, when you were smelling or being aware of that smell, were thoughts or emotions coming up in that moment? Were you aware of something coming up? I don't know if I'm having a bad connection, but I cannot hear you. Let me switch. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Sandra. We can all hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I was away for a moment. At least I couldn't hear you. So, Ginal, were you saying, my question was, were emotions or thoughts coming up in that moment, or was just the awareness of the bottle? Or is Ginal not with us anymore?
It looks like we lost Ginat.
Okay. Well, then if somebody else wants to make a comment or write something in the chat.
Sure. Sandra, that was a really great experience.
Okay, and if, yeah.
So I was eating frozen blueberry.
Okay.
And I was very excited to eat my frozen blueberry because I love blueberries. And the anticipation of the blueberry, like how I thought the blueberry was going to taste before I actually tasted the blueberry, was actually a lot better than this frozen blueberry tasted. It wasn't that
okay.
sweet. And so then first I had the frozen, so I was very aware of the texture of like the ice on the outside and how the skin kind of pops off the rest of it because it's frozen and it starts to melt in my mouth. And so that's something I wouldn't usually experience because I would usually just eat it. I wouldn't like hang it around in my mouth for a long time. And then and then there was a second of sweetness of that really essence of blueberry flavor, and I was like, yes. And then it disappeared, and I'm like, where's my blueberry flavor? And then there was that feeling of disappointment because my blueberry didn't taste the way I thought in my mind blueberry is going to taste. So that was a very, And then to keep bringing it back to the moment and saying, okay, not what did I think the blueberry was going to taste, but how is the blueberry tasting for me right now? And how is the experience of eating the blueberry right now? But it was a conscious move to say, okay, not how I thought it was going to taste, but what is my experience in this moment? So that was very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So you were aware of this really kind of judgment or anticipation, you know, and you could come back to the present moment and say, okay, this is how it's in the moment, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Lisa. Okay, I'm being mindful also of time, so I would like to go on if you don't mind. Thank you for sharing for this couple of persons who could share. And it's really like, you know, like Lisa and Ginat commented, I think that when we are really in the present moment, we are really more aware of what is going on. And with food is not really different, right? What I wanted also well, this fly I already commented. What mindfulness is not. Well, I'm gonna go short into that because sometimes people think that mindfulness is, you know, okay, I'm really gonna relax into it or having a good time, or is really making the mind blank or fixing whatever I have or going through, and that's not. And one of the forms really, you know, sometimes when we practice mindfulness, which can be also practiced in the way we did before by eating, sometimes it's otherwise than relaxing. And sometimes we have the experience also that can be overwhelmed or can be a difficult one. And sometimes it's not really having a good time. We know also that making our mind blank is impossible because the mind, what it does is really think all the time. And it's exactly what Lisa was commenting, bringing the mind into the present moment, whatever or wherever our mind brings us to. And actually it's not difficult. We can really do mindfulness or practice mindfulness, whatever we do in life. You know, if we wash the dishes, if we walk, if we are making our chores or whatever. And in this case, we are going into really the mindful eating. So what is really mindful eating? Mindful eating is about using mindfulness to really reach this state of full attention in the experience of eating, being aware of cravings and being aware of any physical cue when we are eating, as we did before with what we had. Of course, we don't have in life the time to do all the time, you know, this mindful eating, but we can explore really to do it from time to time. So I'm gonna go into that later on. So when we are aware, or when we are really also doing any kind of mindful practice, we are waking up to automatic pilot, because science says that 50% of the times we do things in automatic pilot, all people. And don't get me wrong, automatic pilot is sometimes very good and is very useful, because sometimes we need it when we are driving a car. At the beginning, when we started really learning to drive, we didn't we were not in automatic pilot, we were really aware, but with time we need it. And sometimes we need really this automatic pilot to do things in our lives. And is what also motivate us or gives us the impulse to do things sometimes. But when we wake up from automatic pilot or to automatic pilot, we are coming to our senses. And we are always in this triangle of awareness, what is called in mindfulness, between thought, body, and emotions. So all the time, these three are interconnected. It's not the one is more important than the other. But when we are really, to be is really to be in the moment with all our senses, the sight, the touch, the taste, the hearing, and being aware of what is happening in our body through our senses, and being aware that thoughts come and go as well. And emotions, of course, arise. And sometimes the emotion is first, and then there comes the thoughts and the sensations in the body. Sometimes the body is first, and then thoughts come and emotions. So it's really a play between these three kind of things. And when we are practicing mindfulness by eating, fundamentally, it involves really many things, but we are really eating slowly without distraction, listening to physical hunger cues, and really being aware. When we are really aware of what we're eating, how we're eating, we really take care of our body in the sense of we realize when we are full. We also have the tendency to really, or we can distinguish between what is true hunger and on what triggers us to eat. Sometimes when we are having a distress, emotional distress, sometimes we have, and we know that people have the tendency to go and eat things. We also are, like we realize here, like Lisa was commenting, that the noticing really the taste and the smells and texture of things that we normally, when we eat very fast, we are not aware of that. Or when we are doing, many things at the same times. Like most of the times we are eating and talking, or sometimes people nowadays watch TV and so on. So, and when we are aware, when we are really using mindfulness, we can really cope with guilt and anxiety about food, which sometimes is a huge problem nowadays in the society we live in. We can also maintain an overall health, and we need to notice also what the food has, or what effect the food has in our feelings and in our emotions. We can also appreciate food most or stronger. And all this allows us to replace really the automatic thoughts and being able to react more consciousness. And when we react more conscious, we can really respond more healthy into what we choose to eat and how we choose to eat it. So why we should try mindful eating is because nowadays in society, we have a lot of, or an abundance of food choices. We know, with all the connections around, well, now maybe less than before because of Corona, but normally we are interconnected, and all the foods from all around the world go really into each country, and also arrive to Israel. So we have really a lot of choices, and also the food. Before it was really local, it was the seasonal, although people have the tendency now to go back to seasonal and so on. But we have a lot of abundance of choices. And then also over that, our distractions have shifted into actual people getting used to eat in front of televisions, with a computer, with the smartphones, and really not being into, the moment of eating. And it has become in many times a mindless act, often done quickly when we are at work and only have half an hour, or we are in stress and we forgot to eat, and then we eat a sandwich very fast. And that's problematic because science shows that our brain really needs 20 minutes to realize it's full. So if we eat very fast, we are going to have the tendency to really eat more until we realize, okay, we are full. And this has, the chain of consequences in our way of eating and in our health. And if you eat fast, of course, the signal, which is, in 20 minutes of being full, is not noticed. So then you have eaten too much. So we say in mindfulness, with awareness comes choice. And actually with choice, when you are able to choose, it comes freedom, because you are free really to choose whatever you want or whatever you decide to do. And by eating mindfulness, really, we can restore our attention to slow down, to make eating an intentional act instead of really an automatic one. By increasing we recognize by increasing our recognition of physical hunger and fullness, this 20 minutes, we can be really distinguish. We can be able to distinguish between emotional hunger and physical hunger. Because as I mentioned before, sometimes when we feel anxious, we know, like those movies where people are in a love crisis, they go and grab the ice cream and start eating. And nowadays also we observe that. I used to work with children, and a lot of anxiety and a lack of awareness by eating in children is really they have the tendency to really compensate with food, and most of the time is this kind of junk food, the chips, or what is really very, very quickly to buy, and we don't realize, and that's what we are passing through the next generations. So when you are aware, also you increase your awareness of what triggers you, that makes you eat, even though you're not necessarily hungry. And knowing what triggers you can really create a space between of, okay, am I really reacting to this craving, or I'm aware that this craving is here for some emotional reason, and I really decide to respond differently. Maybe giving your time to do something else, maybe listening to your body, what are emotions coming up, and decided to compensate this emotional anxiety or whatever it is in a different way. Maybe going to nature, maybe sitting and being aware of that, and exploring how it is. So really, when we are aware, we have the freedom to choose how to react. And mostly I would say it's not a reaction, because the reactions come really very, very fast and very quick, but it's really a responding more than a reacting. But then you create really, this space. So there's a lot of unhealthy eating behaviors. I'm not mentioning all of them, but some of them, or what mindful eating methods have been shown to reduce, is emotional eating. What I said before, really, when it comes to this anxiety of cravings for food to compensate something, some emotional sadness or anxiety or frustration. The external eating, that's really the external eating that goes through the eyes. When I go through a bakery and I see these croissants with chocolate, or whatever, these cakes, and then my eye goes. That's why they say don't go shopping when you're hungry, because you're gonna probably end with a full you know, bags of whatever you didn't want to buy in that moment because you were hungry. So, or the smell, sometimes also, you know, you smell something and then you realize, oh, am I really hungry, or am I craving for this really nice smell? I used to have that when I was arriving from school to home, and then I was smelling this you know, the lunch and so on. Then I realized, oh, I'm hungry, or oh no, it's this food. I want to eat that. So that's also an external eating. And there's also one, which is this one here. Well, the obesity, that is a reaction of all these, you know, disorders or all these unhealthy eating behaviors. Do you hear me now? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes, there
So yeah, sorry for that. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, the binge eating disorder is eating the large amount of food in a short amount of time, mindlessly without control. So that's a disorder. So how we practice mindful eating. So there's my advice is, if you have really, or many people find it really helpful to attend a seminar, online course, workshop of mindfulness eating, or mindfulness at all, and develop a regular meditation practice, is very helpful. So if you are not able to do that, or if you don't have a meditation practice that can support that, it's okay. You can also start really by doing what we were doing when I was doing the practice, like really eat more slowly and don't rush in your meals. Also, I advise to choose maybe one meal. You know, you can start by choosing one meal a week, or maybe do it twice a week, and then you could, you know, go into do it every day. It could be one also plate, or only your coffee, you know. Do that exactly what we did before, by, you know, having it in your hands, smelling it, you know, exploring, maybe being adventurous, hearing it, seeing the colors, and then, you know, tasting it. Then if you are using, or if you choose a meal, chewing thoroughly and very slow, exploring also the taste, what we did, and exploring also, because we have the tendency, if you observe yourself, sometimes we chew and we want to swallow. So how would it be not to swallow very fast, you know, like chew many times and taste it in your mouth. Maybe you discover other flavors. Also, I advise eliminate distractions, really, to eat in front of the TV or with your phone is not really recommendable. It really, you know, it pushes you to really maybe eat more and not being aware of what you're eating, and all of a sudden you ate more than what you wanted. Also explore, why not eating in silence, you know, like really without music, just yourself, maybe being aware of any sounds coming and going. and focus also how the food makes you feel. And maybe exploring also, if you feel adventurous, exploring with tastes, you know, take a lemon or explore with salt, you know, being playful with that. And observing yourself also, your body, listen to your body. Stop eating when you're full, you know, like, yeah. And ask yourself why you are eating, whether you're truly hungry or whether you are eating because you know, you saw it and you know, your emotion is craving for it, or you smell it and you want more. So listen to your body in that, and also being aware of which food you're choosing. I'm not going to go into which are healthy foods or not. I think that went on also in this forum, but yeah, that's the invitation. So to finish now and summarizing, so really mindful eating helps you distinguish between emotional and physical hunger. It increases your awareness of food-related triggers and gives you the freedom to choose your response to them, whether you're being triggered, you know, for something you saw or not, or something you smell or not, and so on. So yeah, that will be my presentation. If there's any comments or questions about it, I'm open to that. Thank you. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I have a question about eating without distraction.
Yes.
I find it to be a challenge. I don't have an exact question, maybe just to say that it's challenging, especially if a person or distractions without that to be a any comments?
Ginat, I don't know if it's my connection, but I couldn't hear you very well. Or is yours? Maybe if I...
It's surely mine. My connection is terrible. Can you hear me now? I'll ask again.
Now it's better. Yeah, say it again.
So the idea is eating without distraction. I find to be a big challenge. Do you have any comment?
Well, I think is very, you know, by the invitation to be mindful of what we eat. We can, of course, not do it every meal because we have family, sometimes we have friends, and that's also a distraction. So I think the exploration would be here to really realize if we can do it from time to time and being curious about that. And if you are alone, maybe it's really more easier for someone to really, you know, shut down the TV and whatever distraction is. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge because also eating is a social thing, right? So we eat sometimes with the family, with friends, and so on. So it's difficult. But I think that in all the way when we are eating, we can from time to time come back to ourselves and go away, you know, bring our attention back to our body to listen maybe, okay, now am I full or not? Am I eating really more than my body wants to eat? So I think it's a combination of really letting go of sometimes the distractions and sometimes completely, you know, if you are able to, maybe for one meal once a week is possible, right? So
It was very interesting when you had us being mindful while we were eating something. I chose fresh figs, which are in our local farmers market now. And I actually mentally went away during part of the eating experience because I had memories of a fig tree that we used to have where we used to live. And I got lost for a while, and then I came back. So that was interesting.
So you were going, your thoughts were carrying you away, right? But you could come back.
Yes.
That happens a lot also, of course, with eating, because I mean, eating is in our really implicit memory, in our memory, and relates us to many things, right? So that's it's normal that and our mind is what it does, you know, it goes away. And it's important also, and very, very interesting to know that the act of bringing the mind back, you know, into the present moment, it doesn't matter how many times it wanders. That's what it makes our mindful muscle grows. This is the exercise. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter if we go away. When in the moment we are aware, where awareness comes choice also, we have the two possibilities. We are really using our mindful muscles and practicing mindfulness, and we have the opportunity to choose to create this space of, okay, now I'm awareness, now I'm back, okay. And then you can listen to your body. Do I want more? Do I want less? You know, whatever. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
I've also chosen sometimes to just eat by myself in another room and just announce to my other two family members that I need to have a very mindful meal, and I just need some quiet time. I used to go to a camp where we would have a quiet table where people who didn't want to talk or socialize could go, and I think fondly of that. Choose your battles when you have a group of people that you eat with. You have to choose your battles. Sometimes it's just easier to let just things happen how they're going to happen, rather than always having controversy about everything. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Very interesting, and something that we'll listen to again to really have it sink in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think is we can really, as I said when I started, mindfulness is something that we can really practice anytime and everywhere. And when we know what effects has something like this in our health, because when you are aware, then you really can listen to your body better. You can listen to your emotions. You can make a choice to do I want to eat really this, or is just my craving or my triggering or my memory of the cake I used to eat when I was a child or whatever. So with time, this grows, and then for people that have not done this ever, then when you try it, then bring in this kind of curiosity and wish to explore how it is. It can be open, a new world, something new, who knows. So I think and then like you start to enjoy, and you start to realize, okay, I need this, so I give myself and my body the time to do something like that. Thank you. Yeah.
And one more thing that I would add from my experience is that do you ever have that experience where you eat something that you really wanted to eat, and then you feel completely not satisfied afterwards because your mind was not anywhere with your eating, right? So you ate the whole thing, and then you suddenly feel, I'm still craving something. And it's not because you didn't eat the thing, it's because you didn't pay any attention when you were eating the thing. So I think it's also great for health, but it also will give you so much more enjoyment of your food. So that what you're eating, it's just gonna taste better. It's gonna be a more pleasurable, like physically pleasurable, sensuous experience. So it's also healthy, and it's also good for your awareness, and it's also good for your emotions, and it's also good for all, and it's purely just going to be much more delicious.
Yeah.
When you do that. So.
Yeah, thank you. That's really very, very important. I think it's as you say, you know, like we are sometimes, it happened to me a lot of times. You buy something and then you're thinking about something else eating, and yeah, you didn't realize you already ate it. And I used to do this exercise with the children, you know, with a piece of chocolate, and it was very interesting that the answers from the children were like that. Oh, it's much different when you do it very slowly. So then they learn, you know, to do it very slowly and enjoy really this piece of chocolate or whatever you may have. Yeah, brings joy to life, to be mindful. Thank you. You are muted.
I had an interesting.
How old were these children that you worked with?
They were between 6 and 13. Yeah. And this was one of the favorite practices of mindfulness.
So by 6 years old, they already had lost that sort of natural tendency to pay attention and taste and be present.
Well, I was working also that time with children with special needs, you know, ADHD, and yeah, some kind of so they were really very distracted. So to do something like that, you know, it was helpful to bring them, you know, into, wow, it's powerful. Yeah. And also it depends on in the education the children have had, you know, that normally the children have this awareness of what they need or what they can eat when they are very small. And if they have, you know, this conditioning with time, they lost it, and then they crave, you know, if the parents are only feeding them junk food or a lot of candies, then, you know, it shifts, and they have problems to go back into this inner feeling of, you know.
I see parents that feed the children while they're walking around, standing up and running around, and they kind of put something in their mouth or.
Yeah, I'm not for that. If this really, you know, I would do it differently, but sometimes it's not possible. Right? Yeah, and it's possible to teach them children from small. Yeah,
I had an interesting experience back in the 80s. I was participating in a hospital weight loss program, and they had us all sitting down at a table, and they put a little plate with some orange slices on it, and then they just gave the instruction, well, go ahead and eat them. And we all did, and we were chatting, whatever. And then they came back with, do you remember anything about what you just ate, or did you taste it? And none of us really thought about it until they said that. I said, oh, okay. Identifying an early problem.
Yeah.
What do you think it means when we know we're eating something that's going to give us problems and it's not good for us, and we kind of do it anyway? It's like, is that sort of like internal sabotage? I mean, that's probably a psychological issue trying to manifest. So what do you think about that?
I think, I think that there is, if sometimes in awareness or being aware of something gives us the possibility to choose. And sometimes we choose to do something anyway. If you did it because you chose to do it and you carry the consequences, then I would say, okay, if you feel bad after that or you have a stomach ache, then you're gonna say, okay, it's kind of, I choose to eat it anyway. But when you do it unaware, and then it's, you didn't realize this, I think that's something else, that you know you are carried away by emotions and probably anxiety and craving. So, you know, whatever we do or whatever you choose in life, I think it's important to do it from a sense of awareness. So you have really the freedom, you give yourself the freedom to choose, you know, with all the consequences it may carry, you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sandra, so much. So much
Yeah,
interesting
thank you.
ideas to chew. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank to
Bye.
all of you. Okay.